Hello and welcome to my channel. My name's Jo, this is Joey Sewy, and today I am showing you my very special dress. So this is the third part in a three-part video series all about making a dress for a wedding, and I'm wearing it. But I'm gonna spend another couple of minutes telling you about the process before I actually show you the whole dress, but you're going to get a huge look at the whole dress, so don't worry about that. So where I left you after the second part in the series was with the pattern that I was going to follow, and so then we have the sewing process and the fabric. Now the fabric wasn't such a huge part of the process simply because I knew I was going to use one of two fabrics, and whilst I was going through the process of deciding what to use, I kind of narrowed it down in my own head to this fabric that I'm wearing. So the first thing I'm going to show you is the fabric that I chose. So the fabric that I chose is like this. Now the beady-eyed among you might be saying, wait a minute, Jo, that looks a lot like your bedroom curtains. Yes, it does. That's because this is the same fabric that I used to make my bedroom curtains recently. Now, in my defense, I actually made my bedroom curtains out of dress fabric. So I'm not wearing curtain fabric. My curtains are made out of dress fabric. So I bought in the shop, as you do, I bought the entire roll of this, and there was about 14 meters. Now part of the reason why I did that at the time, trying to lift this up so you can see it, is because I didn't know how much I was going to use, and because I loved it. I thought it was gorgeous fabric, and I still do. It has a slight sheen to one side, which I'm not sure how well it's going to pick up, but it's basically a satin. If I get very close, let's see if you can see it. It's basically a satin fabric. It's one of those fabrics where after a while it's actually a little bit difficult to tell which side is which, and you have to keep staring at it because even the matte side is not all that matte. But I did eventually get it all shiny side out. So the fabric could have been a huge part of this process, but I was trying to use a fabric that I already had, and I was trying to be quite frugal, which is why I didn't buy any of those dresses in the first place, apart from the wanting to make it and wanting it to fit, which we've been through all of that. So that was the fabric I chose. It was a pretty simple part of the process. It is quite a drapey fabric, as you can see on me, and as you will see more of. So I did underline the bodice, which now I've washed the dress might have a slight knock-on effect, which I'll tell you about in a bit. But I did underline the bodice, which basically means I sewed an extra layer of fabric onto the underneath to make the bodice part a bit more structured. And the other implication that it had is that it was not see-through, but the kind of fabric that if you wear basically black underwear underneath, you are going to see that, or any kind of colour or pattern you're likely to see. So I bought a slip so I could wear that underneath. I could have gone for lining the whole dress, but I didn't really want to, for two reasons. The first is because I couldn't be bothered, and the second was because I didn't really want to mess with the drape of the fabric where I wanted it to be drapey. I mean, the arms wouldn't have been an issue, but in the skirt I wanted that drape. That was kind of what I liked, so I didn't want to add structure there and by adding a lining. And I didn't want to buy any more fabric. I wasn't about buying fabric for this project. So I bought a nude coloured slip from Marks and Spencer's, and I've worn that, and it was fine. It's totally solved the problem, so I didn't need to line it. So the sewing process, well, it went together okay. At times I hated it. I really fell out with the dress at times. So you saw the pattern that I was following, and I will put a line drawing up. It's a shirt dress. So you saw in the first video what I liked. I chose a shirt dress. You can see the collar that I've chosen. I didn't do the top button, so I have to hold it so you can see, but you can see that I chose a shirt dress style. I did the bodice first. It has bust darts, not princess seams, and waist darts, because the black and white shirt dress that I tried on, that was the style of that, and in terms of the upper part, I liked that best. I chose this round neck collar, which I really like, because I think it's a bit more feminine, a bit more blouse-like than shirt-like, even though I'm calling this a shirt dress. I wanted to add much more feminine details into it. So I underlined the dress. I will show the inside shortly. I also did French seams everywhere, and in terms of putting it together, I made it difficult for myself. At this point, I'm going to cut to me filming the inside and talking about the process of looking at the inside. So I've taken the dress off and I've put it on a hanger so that I can show you some of the details. Starting at the top, we've got a round collar and a hidden button placket. You can see the gathers at the sleeve cap up there. And then moving down, we've got the waist seam, which I had to add into the pattern just by cutting across the waist notches. And there's the hidden placket going down. You can see the gathers at the cuffs, or at least at the hem of the sleeve, because I didn't do formal cuffs. And hidden placket all the way down. And then there's the gather at the bottom. And then we go all the way down to the hem, which I did with basically like a bias bound edge. So let me show you some of those details. So starting out at the top, we've got underlining of cotton voile. All the seams are French seam, as you can see there, except this back centre seam, because I didn't want to lose any width there. I hadn't allowed enough to do a French seam. There are darts at the back. Here are some of the buttons as we go down. You can see the top stitching on the collar and underneath the collar. Here are the sleeve gathers. The adjustments that I made to the pattern were to add a waist seam, which on reflection I put it a little bit too high up, to be honest, but that's just what I did. So I added the waist seam basically by slashing the pattern and by adding some seam allowance back in. I also, the pattern that I printed off didn't have the 8-panelled bottom, so I added in the seams at the bottom part of the skirt by slashing the pattern and adding seam allowance back in, but I didn't add enough seam allowance. So I created a problem for myself, which meant that I actually had to redo the skirt twice in order to get enough seam allowance in to have the French seams. This fabric frayed like nobody's business, so I had to have the seams finished somehow, and because I thought that I might one day actually wear it open, almost as a jacket, I didn't want to have any of the seams that you would see then exposed, like the serged seam at the top at the back there. So this centre back seam was the only one that I serged, but I didn't want to do them all like that. I wanted to do a fancier job, which meant that I made life difficult for myself. So construction details on the sleeve, there is elastic in here. I did try making a cuff, and the pattern that I downloaded did have a cuff, but the fabric was quite hard to deal with and the cuff just did not come out right, and it was getting a little bit tight for time, so I basically took it off and I made a channel, a sewn-on channel, but I made a channel and put elastic inside it, and that has worked perfectly. Actually, I really like how that's worked, so I'm glad that I changed it because it does the bell sleeve that I wanted from the inspiration dresses. That was one of the things that I really wanted to take forwards. Here on the hidden placket, so I did bar tacks on the hidden placket between each button, and also, where's the ones that I did? So I started out doing them as heart shapes. So there were two that are actually heart shapes. I didn't do them all like that because it was gathering like this. So there's two down at about knee level that are heart shape, and they look quite cute. but they were puckering the fabric. So I decided not to do them all like that, and instead I did the rest quite simply as little bar tacks, and that stops the hidden button placket from going bananas and flapping open. It wouldn't look anywhere near as professionally or nicely finished if I hadn't have done that. Down at the bottom here with the gather, I basically just cut fabric that was double the width of the space that I needed, the circumference of the bottom of the skirt, gathered it using the basting stitch on my sewing machine, and then sewed it on with, again, a French seam. That was really simple to do, and lucky for me it pretty much worked out that I used 2 widths of fabric, and then I just made the length all the way to the floor. And then at the bottom I was struggling to know how to hem it, to be honest, because the fabric frayed so much, and I'd had to lose a bit of length because of some issues with the waist seam, and I needed to move the waist seam a bit. So in the end what I did was I did this huge band of fabric, same inside and outside, and I sewed a long band of fabric, which had the double virtue of adding me a few more inches, because you can see it's quite wide, and completely hiding all raw edges inside and outside the dress. So it was a practical solution, and it was quite a stylish solution, I think. Probably the last thing to say about the construction of the dress, I've mentioned I underlined it in order to stabilise the bodice, and I am glad I did. However, I have committed a schoolgirl error in that this is cotton and it wasn't pre-washed. So when I have washed this dress, which I've washed it once, and this fabric dries instantly, it's fantastic. I got myself a bit wet when I was washing my hands at the wedding, and 3 seconds under the hand dryer and the fabric was dry. But when I've washed the cotton, it has shrunk slightly. So now the bodice on this side is slightly loose against its underlining. To be honest, once I'm wearing it and moving around, you can't tell. But when it's on its hanger and when you're trying to press it, you can tell. Luckily, this fabric doesn't really need pressing. It doesn't crease. It comes out of the wash pretty much like this. I have literally, I've washed it, and the bodice I pressed a little bit, but the skirt, these sections, not pressed at all, and that is what it looks like out of the wash. So I really like the fabric for how practical it is. And that is how the dress was made. Now when I put it on, I realised that the waist wasn't really as shaped as I'd wanted, and so I made this belt. So I'll step back and you can see the belt. So there's the belt. I'm going to do a full tutorial about how to make it. It's actually really simple, but I will do a tutorial about how I made the belt, and I wanted that to bring some shape. So I'm going to show you now. I'm going to stop messing around and I'm going to show you what the dress looks like moving on me. It's full length. I wore it with flat shoes because I wanted to dance. I have the gather at the sleeve cap that I wanted, and I have the fullness along the arms, and the cuffs are elasticated. I did attempt to make cuffs, as I've mentioned, but it didn't go well, and I couldn't be bothered to put a placket in, and in the end I thought, you know what, these are going to look much better if I simply elasticate the cuffs, and then I can pull them up if I want a bit more fullness. I can wear them down, and that's worked out exactly how I wanted it to work. There's a hidden button placket down the front, which I've already shown you when I showed you the construction, and I like that because it makes it look a bit more dress-like, in my opinion. I love the gathered at the bottom. You can see me swooshing and swishing in the video. Yeah, I love how that works. There was a lot of dancing at the wedding. Basically, I love the dress. I love how it's turned out. I love the colour on me. I love the shape on me. I think the belt makes a huge amount of difference, and I really love that. By the way, the belt was made out of the other fabric that I used for my curtains, because why not? It's kind of a velvet fabric, and it was bought to match with the curtains, so that one is curtain fabric, and I don't care. I'm not even sorry. I think this might be the best dress I've ever made. It might even be my favourite ever make. I think it might be. I got so many compliments on the evening, and to everyone I was able to say, why yes, I did make this dress, which always makes my heart sing. I'm sure when you find that always makes your heart sing too. I hope it does, because it's a wonderful thing. I felt great in it. I didn't feel overdressed, I didn't feel underdressed, I felt glamorous enough, pitched it just right. Yeah, I can't say anything more. I am just completely and utterly in love with this dress. I hope you've enjoyed the process of watching me go through everything, and I hope you're happy that there's a happy ending, because I know I am. I am definitely going to be wearing this dress again. Don't know where and I don't know when. You can wear it because of the way I made it with French seams and I have the underlining. I have been playing around with wearing it open just at home, but in the summer I think if I made a smaller dress like a slip to go under it, or just shorts and a t-shirt with this over the top on holiday or somewhere fancy, would look amazing, I think. So I have got plans to try and allow this dress to have more life than just at a wedding. But even if that is all the life it has, I don't care, because it's been amazing. Thank you for watching. I will be back really soon with more videos. Thank you for all your help going through this process, because it has been fantastic to have all your feedback throughout. And I felt very loved and appreciated, and I love and appreciate you. I'm all loved up. See you again soon. Bye.